What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark, AmericanMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today there's a new Captain America, and he's in a brave new world. Those two things came together for Captain America, Brave New World. God. Anyway, this is currently in theaters, so I have a unique experience as a blind film critic, always with audio description accessibility, where I know it's like I'm really passionate about certain movies and about going to theaters for certain movies, but then I've never had a good experience locally with any of my audio description, and that was true here. So I can't really mention the audio description because it kept cutting in and out. Uh Luckily I was able to follow it in general because that's, by the way, shocking. But I mean, like, I wasn't completely just like, what the fuck? Because it would come in and I'd be like, this is my description. Like, just like little moments. I was like, oh my God, holy shit. Um, yeah, like the Bluetooth reception, I don't know if the walls of my theater are made like to protect me from a nuclear blast, but they don't seem to make it to the devices. And then you have the problem of every single movie theater nowadays is turned to 11 on the volume scale, and the headphones just don't make enough sound. And you're thinking to yourself, can't you buy your own? And it's like, it's a wired headset. I don't even own a wired headset. I don't even own one. I wouldn't even know where to begin with the jacks of going into the thing to, and I know as soon as I buy my own headset, they'll probably be like, well, we upgraded to those cool new headsets that everybody else is talking about where you have different. Anyway, if you're blind, you understand what I'm talking about. It's fucking frustrating. But this is Captain America, Brave New World. And in Brave New World, I guess, I don't know, maybe we'll have accessibility. Not in this world, though. It's this world, we're running as fast as we can from DEI. And Disney's really not making a case for it with this movie. I fucking love Falcon, and I love Anthony Mackie, and I'm so happy he's getting an opportunity to play Captain America. I don't. This is the first time where I legitimately believe Kevin Feige is done. Like, he's lost all creative juice. That he greenlit this. He passed this through to the next level as is, and was like, yes. Now, I know this movie went through massive reshoots because basically he passed a movie through that was dog shit, and then they were like, oh shit, how do we change this? Well, first of all, you start off by making a movie that's not dog shit. Like, that's not from the beginning the worst possible sequel that you could have done for Falcon. Instead of creating a new Captain America and giving him new problems, for some reason, the one thing you need to be the most familiar with is the 2008 The Incredible Hulk. But Mark Ruffalo is not in this movie. However, Tim Blake Nelson comes back. I'm fucking not kidding you. The main villain in this movie is Tim Blake Nelson from The Incredible Hulk, which came out in 2008. It came out 17 years ago. Are you serious? There are people out there that are bitching about how they have to watch too many Marvel things to follow other Marvel things. And we got the Disney Plus series. And, like, I don't know. And you already have Captain America. You know, there are, like, a couple Captain America films already. You know, you've got Avengers films that make sense to have watched. I mean, obviously Falcon and the Winter Soldier I thought would play a bigger factor here, except for the Winter Soldier's barely in this. It's like in here for like the length of a fart. And so instead they've got Isaiah Bradley, played by Carl Lumbly, who's in this, who plays a much bigger factor. So that's the reason you would watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. However, Emily Van Camp is nowhere to be found. Like, that whole thing where they ended with her or Julia Louis-Dreyfus or anybody like that at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, they didn't go there at all. They were just like, nah, fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Somebody wrote this script. Somebody did, and they got paid for it. And I would take their money away. I'm gone. I could have written a better script than this for Disney and I've never written a screenplay before, but I feel fully confident in my ability to have written a better. This movie also references the Eternals because they're really still trying to make that happen, even though that movie is not very well liked. It's my least favorite, but I want to use the term not very well liked because I know some people who do like the Eternals. It's my least favorite Marvel movie is the Eternals. So that movie comes up because there was that thing. This movie explains a lot. The movie also opens with a lot of exposition to catch people up. Like, in case you didn't watch all this shit. But then it's like, you feel like you still need to have watched the shit in order to watch the movie. You know, like, I went into this thinking I was prepared because I remembered the events of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And my next logical progression was, well, obviously we're going to follow that. You know, I know Wyatt Russell is appearing in Thunderbolts, so is Harrison Ford. I felt like this was almost teeing up for Thunderbolts. Like, even though Thunderbolts is coming later this year, I felt like somehow this movie was going to be uniquely connected and setting up Thunderbolts and making sense to be like, well, we want to set up Captain America, but also set up Thunderbolts through some sort of convoluted plot that would do so. No. Nope. Nope. Nope, doesn't do that. It does have a random villain in here, Sidewinder, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who just kind of pops in and out. I don't know why. They were bored? So, his... I'm flagging the play for poor use of Giancarlo Esposito. He just comes in and he seems to have a vendetta. It's not really well explained. You know what he felt like? Is he felt like God, what was that like Captain America had Frank Grillo. And I can't remember the character's name. I know I'm supposed to remember all these things, right? This is the problem. But he feels like the character Frank Grillo played, who like they were trying to make happen, and he came in and out of movies. And he was like in the opening sequence to, was it Civil War? And then he was also, but he was also in, wasn't he in the elevator in Captain America Winter Soldier? I think he was. I think Frank Grillo like popped in and out, but Sidewinder doesn't make any sense. He just kind of shows up. He's like, "What's up? I'm Sidewinder." Yeah. So Anthony Mackie has to sometimes deal with that. In case you're wondering, how does Anthony Mackie play Captain America? As an actor, he does about the damn job he does, and I stand by that. I'm perfectly fine with Anthony Mackie playing Captain America. This movie is just, oof. I would have pushed it. I would have pushed it. I would have invested another $100 million and made a different movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally would have, like, if Max can use Batgirl as a write-off, I would have used this as a write-off and made a different Captain America movie with Anthony Mackie. Like, totally. I think this movie makes absolutely no sense and is grasping at things that people didn't watch or watched a long time ago. And not the kind of things, it doesn't even like warn you. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody would go into Captain America Brave New World and be like, oh yeah, well, of course I remembered to watch the Incredible Hulk movie because duh. I mean, I kind of thought I knew the rumors that Harrison Ford was going to be Red Hulk. I got that. But at the same time, I kind of thought we were going to get there without needing to bring Tim Blake Nelson back into this. I really truly thought Emily Van Camp and her character were Sharon, right? Sharon? No, it's Sharon, right? Which Carter is she? Sharon Carter, I think. God damn it. Anyway, now I've got Agent Carter stuck in my head so much now that I'm like, what was, it's Peggy, right? Peggy and then Sharon. She's Sharon Carter. I was thinking Sharon Carter and whatever nefarious shit she was up to at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier that hinted. I thought, like, naturally that's where we would go. Nah, this is not where we go. So, yeah. No Wyatt Russell. Obviously, they're saving him for Thunderbolts. But there's this plot with, oh god. So Falcon, no, I can't say that because now there's a new Falcon played by Danny Ramirez. I have to keep remembering Captain America, Sam Wilson. Uh, I remember he didn't take the super soldier serum. He was just like, I'm myself. And we're all like, what? But how does that make you Captain America? I don't know, man. So he chose not to after learning that Isaiah Bradley was also a Captain America, but was like blamed for being Captain America and was thrown in jail. You learned this all on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And well, Isaiah's back and he's got distrust. Um, it's going to play a huge part because Sam worked to like, I don't know, honor his name or whatever, fix his name, fix his the injustice against him in the Disney Plus series, and so Isaiah's here. Not a lot of other characters from Falcon and the Winter Soldier made it here. Not even the Winter Soldier. Not really, anyway. I mean, not really. Not to where anybody would be like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm glad no, he's gone." So he's got to go do another movie, probably. I don't know. So Falcon works closely with the president, who's now Thunderbolt Ross, who's now played by Harrison Ford, because William Hurt passed away. So they had to recast the role or just forget about it. And they chose to recast it as Harrison Ford, who does a really actually a nice job. He'd be more engaging here if... And that's the thing, too, is that not only did you have to recast, but then you went back to a film that now no longer has the same Hulk or the same Thunderbolt Ross. Like, why is Liv Tyler even in this at the end? Like, what? For like, I don't even know if she is. I think she may have been AI'd into this. I would not be surprised if they use AI because it feels like she's barely in this and like her performance could have been done through AI. So, like, what is even the point? Like, why is Tim Blake Nelson here? You've already lost like half of the major characters. I guess Tim Roth still appeared because he was in She-Hulk. So I guess they're still trying to keep... Man, they're trying to keep that film alive for really no apparent reason whatsoever. Even though they won't give Mark Ruffalo his own movie, they're trying to keep Incredible Hulk alive. Mark Ruffalo is not in this, by the way, which... This movie is like a direct sequel to The Incredible Hulk, but Mark Ruffalo's not in this. I don't know, man. You're looking at me and you're like, are you serious? Yeah, this movie is... It'd be like if I cooked you dinner. This movie feels like if I cooked you dinner. And, you know, you're out there and you're waiting for dinner. I'm like, oh, it'll just be a few more minutes. And you're like, man, this is taking a while. Every time you ask me, you're like, oh, it's just going to be a few more minutes. It's just going to be a few more minutes. It's just going to be a few more minutes. And then I bring out to you your dinner. And it's like, it resembles like chicken Parmesan soup. You know? And you're like, what is this? And I'm like, well, it's chicken Parmesan. Haven't you ever had chicken Parmesan soup before? You're like, well, this isn't really a soup. This just looks like chicken Parmesan poorly made and thrown into a bowl. But yeah, that's kind of what it is. I don't know what I'm doing in the kitchen. I have no idea. And I started to make chicken Parmesan and I failed at it. And I threw it in a bowl and I poured some chicken broth on it and stirred it around. And now you have chicken Parmesan soup. So, enjoy. This feels like the movie equivalent of that. It feels like they had no idea what they were doing. They never knew what movie they wanted to make. And they just made a movie. And it is objectively terrible. It is, but it's at least somewhat entertaining. There are other movies that I sat through, I was like, fuck. Like, I really hated The Eternals. And The Eternals had so much exposition. It was one of the worst introductions to characters. Like, I felt like I needed to read a novel before I got into The Eternals because they couldn't figure out how to introduce those characters in any sort of like reasonable fashion. And they've really been trying to drag them along. They factor in here because that thing that came out of the ocean in the first movie apparently was adamantium. So they found a way to work adamantium into this movie. And so Ross is trying to get together. I know I'm all over the place. This movie makes no sense. Ross is trying to get like the countries together to figure out what to do with adamantium because obviously everybody wants access to it. Um, because it's like the strong metal. It's basically like vibranium ultra, you know. If you've ever seen Wolverine, you know what I'm talking about. So, um, but obviously things go awry. Mainly Tim Blake Nelson, who is angry about being forgotten about for 17 years, essentially. He's like, I've been in the lab for 17 years. And for some reason, Thunderbolt has, been. Thunderbolt Ross has been putting. He tasked him with keeping him alive. So he's been making this pill for him all these years that like has been slowly dosing him with gamma rays. So that's how he turns into Red Hulk, is because Tim Blake Nelson has been slowly dosing him over the years with low doses of gamma rays. And then the movie culminates in Tim Blake Nelson constantly trying to make him angry so that the Hulk version of him will pop out. Because he's president, so of course that would be shocking. There's a subplot with Isaiah, who turns out to be like sort of again close to like what they did with the Winter Soldier, where he's got mind control, so he goes ham in the sequence. And then there's this sort of underdeveloped side character that comes in and stops him, who I don't know is like a ninja. I don't know who she is. She'll be back at some point, I'm sure. I love that, like, basically the only returning character that they could focus on in this movie that has of any sort of consequence or substantialness is like Anthony Mackie. I love that they can't fit a single other. I've complained about this before with other movies. When you have an event that is so big, and yet we have all of these superheroes. That's the thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, is there's so many heroes that all take place in this Marvel Cinematic Universe that it feels so weird when none of them show up. You know what I'm saying? Like when you can't, there's so many big instances where it feels like someone should also get the bat signal, you know? And no, they're just like, yeah, it's cool. I felt that in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. There was that thing that was happening on that boat out there with where those people were being attacked. I was like, is someone gonna come in? We have a ton of people, by the way. Like, there's like oodles of heroes right now that are like in play that could come in. None of them? Why do we keep creating new heroes if we can't cameo them in the movies? Like, one of the best things that Black Panther Wakanda Forever did was bring in Ironheart. She didn't make core sense to Wakanda Forever, but it made sense that she would come in, that they would rope her in, but she was also a new character introduction. That movie needed, I'm sorry, and I've had this debate because people are like, well, that wasn't really the funeral. That movie needed Sebastian Stan. That movie needed Winter Soldier. It needed some other recognition of a character who had already passed through that franchise. And other movies have needed that too. Like they've needed, now Quantumania is really hard to pull it off because they get kind of sucked into it. So it's like, where are you going to come from? I get that. So some movies I give a pass to on this, but when it's like attacking full scale world stuff and like no one shows up, I'm like, why do we have 50 heroes if we're going to leave it to just one of them? And we're going to leave it to the guy who didn't take the super serum, by the way, and his new sidekick who doesn't take the super serum. Both of them are just, they got Wakanda tech, they'll be fine. I guess Wakanda tech, like, what's the point of adamantium if Wakanda tech is so strong that it essentially makes Sam a super serum soldier without ever taking super serum? If that's the strength of vibranium, that he can fall from buildings and everything and survive just like Chris Evans could, then what's the point? Like, why does any of this make any sense? Why are we in this movie? So I don't want to spoil the ending of the movie, but let's just say it involves Red Hulk. Eventually, at some point, Tim Blake Nelson's the bad guy, and I think we forget about that because I'm deeply concerned. I guess I should say a little bit of spoilers, but I'm deeply concerned by the fact that he's in the end credit sequence because he was such an ineffective villain. He was such a bad villain here. He was such like a callback. I love Tim Blake Nelson. Like Old Henry, I would have loved for him to get an Oscar nomination for that. I think he's been a character actor who has not gotten his due for a long time. This is not his movie. We missed the opportunity to bring him back a long time ago. And now we needed to introduce him in a lower profile way, reintroduce him without any consequences. He makes the worst lead villain, and then he's supported by like a secondary villain that comes out of nowhere, Giancarlo Esposito, who makes no sense, who doesn't have a purpose, who doesn't even seem to really have like a plan. He's just a villain. He feels exactly like what I was saying with Frank Grillo's character, who I still can't think of his name because that's how little these characters matter. Yeah, and it feels like, oh well, you need a second boss to fight, I guess. Not really. We just need a better plot. We need a better script. We need a better movie. He needs to be acknowledged that there are other people. There's like no hint that there's ever going to be another Avenger because he can't call anybody else. Like his greatest hope of a sidekick, I guess, is Isaiah Bradley's is his new version of Winter Soldier, but he has a Winter Soldier in Sebastian Stan already. Like, I don't understand this movie. I don't understand this movie at all. New Falcon I would have gone in a completely different direction with Falcon, to be honest, instead of feeling like you have to try to recreate Anthony Mackie somehow and giving him like a similar sidekick. I think New Falcon should have gone in a completely different direction. I think one of the best sort of character swaps we've done recently is Hawkeye to Kate Bishop, because Haley Steinfeld feels like uniquely interesting in and of herself as Kate Bishop, and she doesn't feel like Jeremy Renner at all. And I think if you're going to blaze new paths forward, you have to pick people like that. I think, for example, Riri is enough different from Robert Downey Jr., as Ironheart to Iron Man. So it's the same thing. You can actually tell that there's a difference in personality between Miles Morales and Peter Parker. So like there are these things that you can tell, but he just feels like the same sort of young, brash, just maybe just like a little less well-trained version of Falcon. Like Falcon was still very much like I'm a soldier. I love my country, I mean, he was a little bit more business, but he was still kind of sidekick character. Anyway, I'm going to review this movie again because I need to hear the audio description track when it gets on Disney Plus. Because, again, and that happened with pretty much everything I saw in theaters last year. I rewatched everything except King of the Planet of the Apes, which didn't ever port to the platforms with audio description. And just Disney was like, whoops, we forgot. And just never gave it audio description. So, yeah, I think I resaw everything else that I saw in theaters. I think that's a true statement. Yes. Yeah, everything I saw in theaters last year, I've seen a second time on streaming. I just didn't review all of them. So this time I'm telling you, there will be another review of this Captain America movie, because I'm acknowledging the fact that I can't really talk. I felt it with the last couple times that I go to the theater. I'm like, the fuck is this? That's why I don't like to go. But I really wanted to see Captain America Brave New World. I really wanted to support Anthony Mackie. This movie's a hot mess. And I felt unprepared for it too. Like I felt like, can I get a heads up? Can a brother get a heads up on what movies I'm supposed to be familiar with going into this? Because this was not on my bingo card. What do you need to be familiar with? Well, I would have assumed the previous Captain America films, Avengers, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, The Incredible Hulk, and Eternals. What? okay. uh, and a passing understanding of what adamantium is. So, which is fine, but hey, guys, I don't know. I this breaks me because I'm not one of those people who comes on here who's like, Marvel is Disney's killing Marvel, Marvel's killing. This feels so self-inflicted. I want to know, like, I demand to know from Kevin Feige at what point he ever thought this was a good movie. Like, I want to know from him. I want to hear personally from Kevin Feige at what point he ever thought this was a good movie or a good idea. I want him to explain himself because I don't see it at all. I don't see anything here that somebody shouldn't have just slapped him and been like, no, are you fucking on crack? Like, there's nothing about this movie that makes any sense. It does have action set pieces. It is kind of entertaining. It moves along at a pace. And because I was familiar with the characters, it wasn't nearly as mind-numbing as trying to sit through the Eternals and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. I also really don't like Thor the Dark World. I mean, that movie is such a slog to sit through. So, I mean, is it my least favorite Marvel movie? No. It's down there though, man. Uh, I've stood up for and given some positive reviews to some of the recent films that other people have shat on. Like, I loved Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think a lot of people did, though. But I didn't hate Quantumania. I thought, basically, I thought Jonathan Majors was a shitty villain every single time we brought him up, but, and not be, that was regardless of his, I just thought Kang was just a shitty villain. Maybe we run out of villains. I don't know. We're trying to find like our Loki or our Thanos, and why they're trying to bring Doom in with Robert Downey Jr. because they realize that it's all about the villains at the end of the day. If you realize that, then why not? Is Tim Blake Nelson the villain in this? You know, why not? Because at the end of the day, he is. Because at the end of the day, you kind of are going to end up redeeming Red Hulk because Thunderbolts comes out in 3 months. So I don't know if you put it together that there's a group called the Thunderbolts, and Thaddeus Ross's name is Thunderbolt Ross. But I think you should be able to connect those two together, that they're probably going to be in the same movie together. So, yeah, not a coincidence. I can't with this movie. I don't know. I hate to say that I would have used it as the write-off, knowing that Max can do that with Batgirl. It kind of makes me wonder, it's like, was Batgirl bad? Like, did Max actually do the right thing and look at that movie and go, that was not good. We can't release that. But then they released like Aquaman 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, they made other bad movies and sent them out into the world. So, like, you almost have to wonder at what point a movie becomes a tax write-off. When you look at a studio and you're like, well, these are the other movies that you weren't willing to cancel. So, yeah, this is not a good movie. Captain America: Brave New World, I'm gonna give it a C minus. I don't know, man. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And in a time when everybody's running from DEI, remember, inclusivity is not a bad word. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the other side.